Let's be honest, have you ever stared at a mountain of data for a new business idea and just felt completely lost? Yeah, we've all been there. But what if you had a map, a clear, reliable guide to get you from that total confusion to real strategic clarity? Well, today, we're taking that exact journey together.
So, this is the big question, right? How do you actually navigate a market? It's not about having more data or more charts. It's about having the right framework, the right way to think about all that information.
You know, in the source material we're looking at, there's a character named Paula who feels exactly this way. She's practically drowning in facts and figures. And the solution for her wasn't to find more data, it was to find a model that could help her organize it, to see what actually matters and turn all that noise into a clear signal. All right, let's start building our map, and the very first step, the most fundamental thing, is to just define the world we're trying to navigate. So, what even is a market really?
At its core, it's actually pretty simple. A market is just any place, it can be a real world store or an online app, where buyers and sellers get together to do business. It's where supply meets demand, that's it. And this visual, it lays out the three key players perfectly. On the left, you've got the compradores, those are the buyers. On the right, the vendedores, the sellers. But don't forget that crucial group in the middle, the intermediaries. Think of them as the facilitators, the retailers, the banks, the delivery services that help the whole system run smoothly. Okay, and here is a super important distinction you absolutely cannot miss. The person using the product isn't always the one buying it. The classic example is diapers, right? The baby is the user, but the parent is the buyer. And when we get to sizing up a market, you've got to focus on the users. Now, not just anyone is a potential user. Our source material gives us 4 conditions that someone has to meet. Let's go through them. First up is interest. This is the starting line. Does someone have a real concrete need or want for your product? If not, well, you don't have a market to begin with. Condition number 2 is income. You can want something desperately, but if you can't actually afford it, you're not really in the game. You're not part of the available market. It's desire plus the capacity to buy that makes the magic happen. Then there's the third condition, will. This one's all about psychology. I mean, think about it. You might know you need a gym membership, and you might have the money for it, but do you have the actual will to go sign up? That's the mental hurdle a lot of businesses have to overcome. And finally, number 4 is access. Can the customer actually get the product? If you want to buy a specific brand of soda, but it's not sold in your entire country, you can't be a customer. So you need all 4. Interest, income, will, and access. That's your true potential user. Okay, so we've defined our world, we've figured out who lives in it, but just how big is that world? Now we go from drawing the map to actually measuring the territory. It's time to size up the opportunity. And believe it or not, the math here is really straightforward. The formula at the top shows you how to get the market size in volume. You just multiply the number of users by their average consumption. The bottom one is for value. You just swap out consumption for the average price. See? Simple. So let's make this real with a quick example using shampoo. You start with the total population, say 44 million people. Then you filter it down. Who can actually afford it? That's our potential market of about 35 million. Then, who are the actual users? That brings us to our available market of around 24.6 million people. So, we've got our pool of users. Next question, how much shampoo do they actually use? Well, based on the data, the average person goes through about 2.7 of those little single-dose packets every week. Do the math, and that comes out to about 1.4 liters per person per year. And this is where it all clicks into place. You take those 24.6 million users, you multiply by the 1.4 liters each one uses, and bam, you get a total market size of 34.4 million liters of shampoo a year. Now that is a real number. That's something you can build a strategy on. But hold on, knowing the size is just the start. To really, truly understand the terrain, you need to go deeper. And that's where our next tool comes in handy, the 10-point market checklist. Think of this as your pre-flight checklist before you launch any business venture. It covers 10 absolutely critical data points, everything from the market size to consumer trends, to make sure you've got a full 360-degree view. This is your guide to making smart, informed decisions instead of just guessing. Let's just pull out a few heavy hitters. Market maturity tells you if you're jumping into a growing market or one that's shrinking.
Concentration tells you if you're fighting one giant competitor or 1,000 tiny ones. And key success factors. This one's huge. It tells you what it actually takes to win. Going through this checklist is what turns a blind gamble into a calculated risk.
Okay, we've done the analysis. We have the data. We've gone through the checklist. Now what? Now it's time for action. Let's shift gears from understanding the market to creating a strategy to go out there and win.
And here's a really powerful, simple 3-step model for that. First, you analyze the business to deeply understand what your customers are really looking for. Second, you figure out how to capture a piece of that market value. And third, and this is key, you build a plan to sustain it over the long haul. Capturing that value is all about your point of view. The old way of thinking, the 4 Ps, was all about the company, our product, our price, our place, our promotion. But today's world has flipped the script. The new way is the SIVA model, and it starts with the customer. It's about offering a solution, providing information, creating value, and ensuring access. It's a massive shift from what we want to sell to what they truly need.
Which brings us to the final and I think most important part of our journey. Because you can have all the frameworks and checklists in the world, but they're useless without the right mindset. We're moving beyond tactics now to the very core of what it means to be a strategist.
Way back when, the philosopher Aristotle gave us this incredible piece of wisdom. La virtud está en el término medio. It means virtue is in the middle ground, and that is the heart of great strategy. It's not about being purely data-driven or purely gut-driven. It's about finding that perfect, powerful balance in between. This all leads to the ultimate virtue of a strategist, prudence. And let's be clear, prudence isn't about being timid. It's a powerful 3-step process. First, you deliberate. You look at the pros and cons and you don't rush. Second, you judge. You weigh everything and find the best path forward without being rigid. And finally, you execute. You take that decision and act on it with courage and conviction. And so that's what I want to leave you with. We've walked through the frameworks, the models, the checklists. You have the map. But the real question is, do you have the prudence to navigate the journey? Can you find that balance between analysis and action, between reason and courage? Because that is what makes a true strategist.